Maybe you've heard of red herrings before as part of mystery stories or shows. The investigator looks for clues and finds something that looks like useful information, but after pursuing it for a while, it turns out that it was a false lead. Our term for that is red herring. The story is that the term originated in England when a journalist talked about how he used a literal red herring, a kind of smoked fish with a strong smell, to throw some hounds off the trail of the scent that they were pursuing. Today we still use that term to describe a false lead in a quest for information. It should be pretty clear why a red herring would be a fallacy of distraction. In the literal definition, the journalist used a red herring to distract the hounds from the scent that they were following so they wouldn't keep following it, and so they'd go off in the wrong direction instead. Let's look at a couple of red herring fallacies in action. For example, let's hear from the president of the Reduce the National Debt Society. Now, I don't think there is such a thing. If there is, they haven't been able to fix the national debt, but we'll go along with it for the story. Suppose someone asks the president of the Reduce the National Debt Society about switching the United States to the metric system. He might say something like this: "The metric system is important to some people, but consider that the national debt is $20 trillion. We need to focus our energy and resources on that before we focus on anything else." What he just did was change the subject to his own agenda instead of what the person had asked about. If other people accept that answer, they've accepted a red herring. Here's another example of a red herring argument. Matilda gets in trouble at school for not wearing her school uniform. When she's in the office and the headmaster reminds her that she signed an agreement saying she would wear her uniform every day, Matilda starts talking about how the school uniform is actually unfair to girls because boys are allowed to wear pants, but girls have to wear skirts. Now, at first glance, Matilda's discussion about the uniform might sound relevant, but the fact that girls have to wear skirts to school has nothing to do with the fact that she did sign the agreement saying that she would wear her uniform every day. Now, you may or may not agree with this school's dress code, but it sounds like it is well enforced and that Matilda already promised to follow it. So her opinions about it at this point aren't relevant to the fact that she broke the agreement. But if she can get the headmaster to focus on the fairness of the dress code, she removes some pressure from herself regarding the fact that she broke the rules. That's why she's using a red herring. Here's the basic form of a red herring argument. Premise about topic A. Premise about topic B is brought up. It might even look like topic B is relevant to topic A. Conclusion: whatever it is, it's about topic B, not topic A. Now, if you think this is very similar to avoiding the question, you would be correct. Some people classify red herring as a subtype of avoiding the question, since there are lots of ways you can avoid answering a question. Either way, pay attention to the topic of a discussion, and if the discussion continues on the same topic. If it doesn't, someone may have changed it very deliberately. Our next fallacy is the straw man argument. Someone sets up a straw man argument when they set up a weak or ridiculous version of their opponent's argument and then knock it down. The fallacy comes when they use this as a substitute for disproving their opponent's actual argument. Notice that when we use the word straw man, we're talking about a man made out of straw, or something like a scarecrow. In theory, a man made out of straw would be a lot easier to defeat than a real man. Either way, we are not talking about a man with a straw. Here's an example of a straw man argument. Politician: my opponent does not support the bill for increased funding for our schools. Obviously, he does not care about your children or their futures. We don't need more people like him in the state legislature. You've probably heard arguments similar to this numerous times around election season. How is it a straw man argument? It starts with a true premise. My opponent does not support the bill for increased funding for our schools. We'll assume for now that this is true. But the conclusion the politician speaking leads us to is that her opponent does not care about children or their futures. That's where the straw man comes in. Now, it's really unlikely that the opponent ever said anything like, children don't matter, or I don't care about children. Much as the politician speaking would like you to think that that's what he said, it really isn't. Most likely, the opponent has his reasons why he doesn't support the bill for increased school funding. Maybe the bill actually diverts most of the money raised to support the underwater basket weavers of America, and it won't go to the schools at all. If you knew that, you might agree that the bill is bad, even if you do care about schools and children. The politician speaking has taken a true premise, drawn a ridiculous conclusion from it, and used that to substitute for the opponent's real stance. Then all she has to do is take down the fake argument, or the straw man argument, and she looks like she's won. Here's the basic form of a straw man argument so you can see how it works. Person A states their position. Person B presents a distorted version of Person A's position, acting as if their version is the same as Person A's actual position. The distortion is the straw man argument. Person B attacks the distorted version of Person A's argument, which is easier to do than attacking Person A's actual position, and then claims that Person A's actual position has been defeated. Again, compare this to attacking a scarecrow version of a real person and then claiming you've beat the actual person. Here's another example. Parent: no, you can't go to the party on Tuesday night. You have school the next day. Hysterical teenager: but I need to go to that party. Why don't you trust me? You must think I'm still a child and I need to be babysat 24/7. When will you treat me like an adult? You just want to ruin my life. First off, what's the hysterical teenager trying to accomplish here? She's probably trying to get the parent to step back and draw a conclusion to say, you're right, I should treat you like an adult and let you decide about the party for yourself. If she can do that, then she's won the opportunity to go to the party, which is probably what she really wants right now. So where is the straw man argument? It comes in when the teenager informs the parent that what they really mean is that they don't trust the teenager and that they are trying to ruin her life. Now, admittedly, some parents give in at this point. After all, what parent really wants to ruin their kid's life? We don't have all the details in this story, but a parent who is concerned about their child going to a party on a school night is not necessarily one who wants to ruin their child's life. So, the teenager's accusation is probably not warranted. But rather than discuss the actual issue and agree on a reasonable time for the teenager to come home from the party, instead, the teenager creates a straw man argument, you want to ruin my life, and makes that the issue instead. Sometimes, when engaged in discussion, people use straw man arguments without realizing that's what they're doing. They may believe that they've found a real weakness in the other person's argument. They may see it as just a way to prove their point. You can avoid using straw man arguments yourself by trying to stick with your opponent's original argument as closely as possible and make sure you understand what they really mean. Then you can defeat their argument on its own merits rather than on fake premises. Here is an example of not a straw man fallacy. Parent: no, you can't go to the party on Tuesday night. You have school the next day. Well-behaved teenager: I understand you are concerned about me going to a party on a school night, but I think the party will only go until 9, and I'm often out that late for church activities on Wednesday nights anyway, and I still do all right in school the next day. Does that make a difference in how you see this party? In this case, the teenager is directly addressing their actual concern instead of building a straw man argument. Doesn't this sound much more civilized? And doesn't the well-behaved teenager sound more credible than the hysterical one? Move on to the next video when you are ready.